we had a summer intern that was going to go to engineering school, mechanical engineering school, and he spent the whole summer on the shop floor working. And he was so thankful for that because he said, I've got the rest of my life to sit behind the computer, and it afforded him the opportunity to really do the work for one summer. And
if you wanted to do that type of thing, you're really going to set yourself apart, not only to an employer, but just for what you can provide. I basically want to be the most rounded person in the office. That's my goal. On my Instagram bio, I put skills collector. There was a podcast with Dave, on Weld.com with Dave Madera. He was like, I want to be a skills collector. I want to learn everything I can, so that way if a problem comes up, one of those skills might come into play. And that is exactly who I am, because I do signs, I do the artistry stuff, I do the repair. You should never stop learning. You should really try to find something every day.
Welcome to Making Sparks, the podcast where we ignite your passion for metal fabrication and fuel your business success. Join industry leaders and dive deep into the world of metalworking. From business insights to tips of the trade, Making Sparks is your forge of knowledge. During each episode, discover success stories, innovative solutions, and expert interviews that light the path to business growth. Subscribe today and grow and improve your company, and let's make sparks fly together.
A sculptural piece, and this is like my first true sculptural piece. I don't know. I'm gonna try and see if I can show you all through my phone. It might be a little tough.
oh yeah, wow. It's like, is it a guitar?
So, yeah. So Champion Tool. Let me see if I can. I got a bunch of video pictures, but these are just like other close-ups.
Yeah.
So this is a guitar I did. And I used basically every component of it, other than the gear chain and then the rod and then that obviously that rectangular plate. All of it is all their tools.
Oh wow, that's really cool.
So I just finished that one, and I can't post it until they do the unveiling. But yeah, so I don't like to say no. I do a lot of stuff, honestly.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, we're rolling already, and I hope to capture some of that what you just said there. So that's great. But Casey, why don't you kick us off? Casey, let's dive into this next episode.
One of these days, we need to have you practice kicking us off, Matthew.
That's why I have a partner. That's why I have a host, and I'm the co-host. And I am happy to be the co-host.
Welcome back to Making Sparks. I'm your host, Casey Velker, sitting here virtually with my co-host, Matthew Nix, and we got a special guest here. His name is Jake. I'm going to probably say his last name wrong, but I'm going to say LeGrand. Is that right?
That's right.
Oh, man. Okay. I don't know why I thought I could mess that up, but I could have. But
it's not like LeGrand.
Well, I get a lot of LeGrand or LeGrand A. I'm like, there's no letter after D.
I keep wanting to call you Rick because I had a sixth grade teacher. His name was LeGrange.
Oh, yeah.
And he was Rick LeGrange. And Jake has that kind of same sound. I'm like, oh, yeah, we got Rick here. Oh, wait, never mind. It's Jake. It's Jake. My bad. No. So, Jake, just go ahead. Let's go right into it. Tell our listeners, give a little background of your journey and where you're at right now with your fabrication journey.
Yeah. So let's see here. I officially started my business in 2020 when I, put an LLC on the end of it. But I've been doing this since 2014, 15. Basically how it started was I went to University of Kansas to get a degree in architectural engineering. So my day job is a structural engineer. I do home designs, remodels, retaining walls, stuff like that. And so while I was in school, like a lot of college kids, you're trying to figure out how to make some beer money. So I didn't want to do any fast food type or retail. So I found a job in the undergrad research lab, and basically it just stuck. Right off the bat, they had me building concrete forms. We were testing concrete columns, beams, and just various configurations. Some beams would be 20-foot long. Some columns would be little stubby 5-footers all the way up to like 12-foot. And basically what happened, we would build everything, using carpentry tools and skills. And then it got to a point to demo. And at the demo part, so we're using jackhammers to expose the rebar. And basically what at that point, you're taking oxy-fuel torches to cut them down. So that way you can actually move these massive chunks of concrete. And, did that for a while. And it got to a point where my boss was like, hey, do you want to learn how to weld? And I said, yes, I want to do that. Because I always would be, running a skill saw or something in the background. And he'd be over in the corner running just a huge engine drive and just laying 70-18. And so let me play around the MIG welder, did some tacks, did some little welds, nothing crazy. And then kind of in that same week, we were slow and he let me play with a plasma cutter. Had a big 3-phase, basically all the power and air you could ask for at an undergrad facility. So never had any concerns of that type of stuff. So it was just full bore, having fun. And he let me do a little project for him. He was like, hey, can you cut me some pheasants, like some silhouettes? And I said, yeah, I can probably do that. So I went to my apartment, sketched them out, stenciled them on the steel and cut them out. And then that basically is kind of where all this started, was him willing to show me, fabrication in general. Cause I had zero, like I knew of it from, shop class in high school where guys would be like, oh yeah, we were welding on whatever. And then I was, probably in calculus or something, because our school, basically you either could take shop or you could take the classes that would most likely hit all your prerequisites to get into college. So, did that.
That's so disappointing. I want to jump in there. You talked about that, about how you had to take the prereq calculus stuff or shop. You couldn't do both. And that's
Correct.
Such a disappointment. And I don't know what they're doing in Kansas now, but in Indiana, as of this year, just changed that. And so now they're doing it all based on career pathways. So for example, if you had an engineering pathway, you would be able to now do the higher end math courses and hands-on shop classes, because obviously those two are very closely related in an engineering pathway. Or maybe you have more of a manufacturing, shop floor aspiration, but you're going to take math that supports that, right? You don't need the high end calculus. Correct. You need basic geometry and so forth. And so I'm optimistic at the changes we're seeing there. And I don't know if Kansas is doing the same, but anyways, I just wanted to interject that because you're a perfect example of why the system kind of wasn't set up correctly for someone like you.
Correct. No, I think I tell my mom all the time, like if I would have been able to play around the shop, I'm going to say with 80 to 85% certainty, I would not have become an engineer. I would have been a fabricator all day long. And yeah, it really was, because I remember it was basically the first half of the day. Well, it was also set up too because we had Votech, and I'm sure there's like different names, but basically you go to a school and they teach you. Yeah. Okay. So the way it was set up, so that first half of the day, you either went to Votech or you did your calculus, chemistry, biology 2 in the morning. So you basically went to Votech or you went to the that was just the way it was. And we were a small school. I went to school in Oak Ridge, Missouri, which basically the little boot of Missouri, it's down there. And we had across the entire high school, maybe 150 kids. So that's part of the issue is we weren't even a big enough school to potentially offer different routes, but I do think there could be something different done. But yeah, so I mean, I got into the research lab and it just kind of took itself. It started to, hey, can you weld this up for me? Whether it just be like a little bracket. And then all of a sudden it was, hey, we have a huge smelting pot. I had moved over. So basically in the lab, you kind of work under all of the graduate students. So you're working on whatever they're testing and projects. Well, my junior year, I believe, I got moved to I actually was working under a professor. So at that point, I'm now working underneath her graduates specifically. And we were testing at like traffic stops. You see the big, traffic. They hold the lights and everything. It's typically a big L. Basically, what we were testing was the fatigue in that constant flex of the wind. So we were coating materials in zinc. So we had a huge smelting pot, and we had to build an enclosure so that way no splashing or any of that molten zinc could get on anyone. So that was my first project. I remember my boss was like, I'm going to let you run with this. This is the general idea. He's like, I don't have any specifications other than make it big enough to where the pot fits inside of it. I said, okay, I can do that. So he let me weld up the frame, which was basically just all box tube. And I did the base plates. I did the little concrete footer, bases, if you will. And I remember I didn't listen to him, and I cut one of the materials on a horizontal bandsaw, and I didn't have it properly supported, and I had the nastiest angled cut. So when we're tacking it together, he's like, all right, are you ready? I said, what do you mean? He's like, you're going to weld that gap. I'm not welding up your mistake. And that was the first time I think I had a 1/2-inch gap. Oh my gosh, I fought that thing and fought it. He said, nope, stay with it. Keep swerving it. You'll fill it and then come back and put a big cap on it. But yeah, that was without David Woody. That's I would never learn fabrication. So kind of fast forward a little bit. My dad got me a plasma cutter for my graduation gift. It was a little Hobart built-in air compressor, and it was at our local, kind of feed store. Had it half off, and he got it for me. So I'm at my new house at this point in Kansas City, and I had 2-car garage, and I'm just playing with the thing, and it just from there just took off. I remember when I charged someone for $100 sign, I thought that was outrageous. $100 I thought was just wild, and now I'm in the thousands. So it's just kind of cool to see progression of things.
Hey guys, it's Nick from Making Chips. I want to give you 3 quick reasons why you should check out Mike Payne's podcast, By the Numbers. Mike, my good buddy, my partner on Making Chips, is full of wisdom. He's full of experience. He's full of what it takes to buy, sell, and lead a business, specifically a manufacturing business. So all the numbers that you should be focused on to improve your performance, that's what he's the master at. The second reason, Mike's the first person I call. If I'm looking at a new idea, a new partnership opportunity, a new acquisition, any new initiative where I need to dive into the numbers and figure out how to approach it, Mike is who I go to. And third, you got to love that buttery Tulsa King voice that Mike rocks. It just soothes your soul. It gives you the confidence to elevate your leadership. Jokes aside, if you love making chips, or if you're just passionate about improving your business performance and the financial performance of your company, check out By the Numbers by Making Chips, hosted by my good buddy, Mike Payne.
I see that you actually had an article featured about you in the Welder magazine. So that was
yes, sir. That just came out.
Yeah, that's super cool. Congrats on that. And so I'm interested. As an engineer, you wouldn't think someone, because the work you do. Also, I mean, I think you fairly well implied it, but just to be clear to the listeners, like the work that you're doing is mostly very creative work. I know I read the article. You're repairing dump trucks and things of that nature, which is my background too, by the way. I grew up.
Oh, nice.
I grew up in a little mom and pop welding shop, 4 of us fixing farm equipment and dump trucks and so forth, exactly like that. And people bring a lawnmower deck in, we'd patch it up. I mean,
yes,
you name it, we did it. We evolved from that into larger industrial projects. I personally love the creative stuff, but I've never really built a business model out of that. I kind of hope someday when I semi-retire that maybe I could go back to that. But having said all that, what I find interesting is, as an engineer, you do a lot of really creative work, and that seems to be at opposition with each other. It's really funny.
It is.
It's like accountants and engineers. It's like the right brain, left brain thing, versus being creative. So, can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah. So, and I have the perfect answer. So, literally from elementary on, I was always drawing. And then when I got into middle school, I drew houses constantly. I don't know why. I was just infatuated with drawing houses, straight on views, angled views. And so I thought I wanted to be an architect. And then I found architectural engineering at Kansas. And so that's the route I went. But yeah, I've always been a little artistic. Yeah, it's definitely it's a weird correlation, but it's also not, because in my realm of the residential world, there's a lot of things where contractors will unfortunately put themselves in a bind where if they just would have called us, we could have gave them a solution up front. But sometimes they'll frame something, you're like, how are we going to fix this? And what's nice is the creative side then comes out, because it's like, okay, so what if we arrange some steel plates in this manner, and we'll have you bolt this thing, but we'll have you weld to this thing. So there is the chance for some creativity, but yeah, not the creativity that you typically think about. I've just always been doodling. So it's always been, I really do think I'm kind of a split brain, if you want to call it that. I really do dabble in both things.
Yeah, no, I think that the architecture piece is much more relatable to the artistic stuff you do. I love architecture too, by the way, and I always draw houses and things too. I actually designed my own house that we built 10 or 11 years ago, and been drawing our office building that we want to build at work. So I geek out on that stuff too.
Yeah, no, I've been doing the same thing for other people. Like they find out I'm an engineer, like, oh, hey, can you draw me plans? Like, I mean, yes, I can, because I have the ability to, because of that creative side, but I can also give you some specs if you want. And they're like, yeah. Then disclaimer, I'm not a professional engineer yet, but I'm working to that.
Great.
So
good for you.
These are all
awesome.
These are all recommendations and suggestions.
Well, I was going to say, I think it probably works well with some of your artistic projects that you're working on, to be able to give the specs and be able to draw. I know. I was reading. I think it may have been on your website, or it may have been one of the articles Maggie sent me. But that, like, you like to draw on you'll draw something up for them on your iPad to show them kind of what you're going to build for them. And it is just like you showed us earlier. The most recent thing you did that is very artistic, but also very intricate, like the way everything connected together. I feel like having that engineering background probably definitely helps, or having the skill sets that you're learning as an engineer too.
Yes. There's actually been things that welds is a lot of like, what weld capacity do I actually have on this? Like, cause you can certainly over weld something, and then you get, heat affected zones and just, different metallurgy, characteristics, and, maybe that material becomes brittle. But there's definitely things I'm like when hanging something up on a bracket, it's like, okay, for this, if I do 4 1-inch welds, that's going to be more than adequate to hold this, 400-pound sign, which I don't even know if I've done a 400-pound. I probably have, but, stuff like that. It is nice to think about that. And it's also within the work I do, I have to be very spatially aware. So like when hips and valleys of roofs are coming down to a point, it's like, okay, I'm going to have to support that corner. If I put a beam there, is that beam going to poke through the roof, or do I have enough room? So having that spatial mindset definitely helps with my signs, because I do a lot of layers. So within those layers, I'm thinking, can I fit my hand to put lights there? Or do I need to make the sign collapsible / make the back bolt up to it, so that way I can install the lights and then sandwich it all together. Just kind of being spatially aware, that really does help. I just did it this morning. I did a sign that I made the back bolt up to the main component of it, so that way I could put the lights in, because we wanted a thinner profile. We didn't want like a 5-inch thick sign, where this one turned out to be like 3.
Yeah, having the shop floor, things like that. The shop floor experience that you have, and the theoretical background, that I think is a really great combination. That's often missing in engineers. So I think that's going to serve you very well in your career.
I hope so.
No matter where your career takes you.
Yeah, I hope, and I can't say who the client is, but we do a lot of shipping container work, not for LMW, but for my day job. And there's some details we've had to create. I'm like, and I've been to their shop, and so I know they're running only MIG. So it's like, okay, can you get a MIG gun in that spot? And be like, it's gonna be tight, but yeah, you could do that. So like making sure that the details we create, you can actually build them.
Right. Yeah.
That's you hear that constantly of guys going, oh, those engineers, they build something and it blah blah blah, and it is true. It's 100% true, because there's definitely people in my office that I'm not saying that they're not brilliant, but they haven't ran a MIG gun like I have. So I have a step up in that aspect.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's so important for anybody that's in the engineering field to actually spend time doing the hands-on work in whatever field they're in. So if you're doing houses, go out and build the house. If you're in the manufacturing or fabrication environment, go out and spend time on the shop floor, and considerable time too. I think that's so important.
You can't just do a site visit. It needs to be weeks.
Yeah, we had a summer intern that was going to go to engineering school, mechanical engineering school, and he spent the whole summer on the shop floor working. And he was so thankful for that, because he said, I've got the rest of my life to sit behind the computer, and it afforded him the opportunity to really do the work for one summer and have a better understanding and appreciation for what he's drawing and designing. So definitely think there's
correct. And I do think a lot of that too is the individual wanting to do that. If you want to do that type of thing, you're really going to set yourself apart, not only to an employer, but just for what you can provide. I constantly tell my boss, I'm like, what's something that I can do that puts me above others?
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily I'm trying to be better. I basically want to be the most rounded person in the office. That's my goal.
Yeah, that's great advice.
And you'll see, like, on my Instagram bio, I put skills collector. There was a podcast with Dave on Weld.com with Dave Madera, and he was like, I want to be a skills collector. I want to learn everything I can, so that way if a problem comes up, one of those skills might come into play. And that is exactly who I am, because I do signs, I do the artistry stuff, I do the repair. You should never stop learning.
Yeah,
you should really try to find something every day, because you will. If you look for it, you'll find it.
Hey guys, it's Nick from Making Chips, and I gotta tell you about our new show, Lights Out. When someone talks about being lights out, what comes to mind? For me, it's Michael Jordan. He's got the ball, the game's on the line. Or it's Leo Messi taking that ball up to take a penalty in a penalty shootout. These guys are elite, and they're unstoppable, and you just know they're not going to miss. But I also think about the technology, automation, process, and most importantly, the mindset of the manufacturing leaders with the best shops in the world. Every episode will equip and inspire you to run lights out so you can sleep soundly while your shop never stops. Because we all know, if you're not making chips, you're not making money. So check out the new Lights Out podcast by Making Chips. I will see you there.
Oh, that's great advice.
Jake, you mentioned that you were on the Weld.com just recently, their podcast, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yeah. And then obviously, you were talking about Instagram. Your LeGrand Metalworks has over 19,000 followers on there, and you're doing it on the side, right? This is kind of your side gig a little bit.
Yes, sir. This is all evenings and a little bit sprinkled throughout the day, but mainly all evenings.
You've had an article in the Fabricator on, at least online, and then you had the Weld. What would you guys say? The Welding magazine.
The Welder magazine.
Yeah, Welder magazine. How are you doing this? How are you getting on podcast? How'd you get on Make It Spark? How'd you get on these podcasts? How are you growing your Instagram? Because I think some of our listeners will be like, some of them might be jealous. They're like, man, this guy, he's growing a little bit of a following, and he's not even doing this full time. What's he doing? So that's kind of my question to you. What are you doing?
Yeah, no, and I definitely have had people like, man, you're killing it, and it's a beat horse, but it's consistent work. I started the Instagram channel. I think I looked it up the other day. I think it was 2018. And it took me forever to get to 1,000 followers. But it was at that point, I wasn't necessarily trying to be an influencer. I was just posting to post because I thought I have a lot of people back. Because at that point, I had just moved from my hometown for, where I lived for, well, I guess, 18 years. So I didn't really know a lot of people. And I went from a school of 150 kids to the Kansas City Metro. So, and something like that, it's like, I don't even know how to go meet people. That's just not, I don't know how to, like, I can talk to anyone all day long at the coffee shop, at the local diner or something, but going to, where it's just a different experience. So it all started as just a post so people back home could see what I'm doing. And then it turned into people were getting, interested in what I'm doing, and it just grew. So I had a reel that almost had 1 million views. It was, I think it's pinned on top of my page.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. I saw that in the article.
Yeah, that's an old water tank that it's, if I believe correctly, it was 6 foot tall and probably a 3 foot diameter tank. And the guy reached out to me. It went up to upstate New York, and he basically said, I want something that's the main centerpiece of my campground. And I was like, okay, so this thing needs to be legit. Like, it needs to be, when you pull up to that campground, the first thing your eyes go to is that. And so we had his logo in there, and it just looked too bare. So I just said, hey, can I add some things? And this is where the iPad comes in. So what I do is I use an app called Concepts. It's for more artistic people, like it's got so many different, I don't know the word I'm looking for, but just like presets. That's what I was looking for. Whether that be like drawing bodies, it's got a preset that you can just kind of pop in, then you go. So it's more geared to that, but I like it because I can overlay and underlay photos. So what I did was I drew the tank as if it was flat and you're looking at it. And I put the logo on there, and I basically created 4 sides. So 4 of the same thing, and just started filling it up. And then I used an overhead projector. I print clear paper, or I guess it's film technically. And then I just traced it onto the tank, and it got crazy quick. And he's like, that is awesome. That's exactly what I'm looking for. And made it. And my page blew up. I think I went from like 7,000 followers to maybe 15 in a matter of, I'll say, a month. That might even be long. It might have been faster than that. It was pretty absurd. Like, every day I looked at it, I'm like, oh my gosh, that number is bigger. It's like every morning it was bigger and bigger. So that has tremendously helped, because with that, people, just like a business that you're Googling online that has a bunch of really good reviews, you automatically get some credibility. Now, there's a lot of people that do buy their followers, so you got to watch out for that. But all of a sudden, I had people DMing me for signs or for work. So social media,
where you're getting work from it. That's awesome.
Yeah, it definitely ramped up, because in the beginning, I was lucky if I got a comment, on something. Basically, people that are on Instagram, they're just there to like. They're not necessarily there to engage. So you got to find ways to, actively try to get some comments to get whatever you're posted to get some traction. So yeah, I had a lot more work pushing through the DMs, and then I also started doing ads on Instagram, and that helped as well. Basically, every time I've done an ad, I've gotten a job. So if there was like, maybe I got a little slow, I'm like, a couple $100, see what happens, and it almost. Actually, no, it has worked 100% of the time.
That is, that's really interesting.
So, I'm trying to be more word of mouth, because I'd love to do more local work. Just for, typically the signs I do are pretty big. At least now they are. So shipping can get kind of costly, and sometimes for people that's the make or break, because like that fire tank, it somehow shipped to upstate New York from Kansas City for $600. I don't know how I did it, but it did.
How did that guy find you in upstate New York? How did he find you?
From an ad.
Instagram?
From Instagram. When I do my audience, I don't necessarily do targeted, mainly because I know nothing about ads. I just want as many people to see it as possible. So I just set it as custom, and I let Instagram, basically what it does, it goes to the biggest cities in the US and it just plops it on people's page. So it's not really the best marketing strategy, but if you're looking for views and potential new follows, it is a good idea because you're getting such a wide audience. But yeah, he found me from an ad, and there it went.
And the work you're doing is so visually compelling when someone sees it. And I know that you say you do some work for like individuals and you do work for businesses, but you know, I just think the work you're doing lends itself to that broad, you know, I have a little bit of a marketing background. So like hearing you say, oh, it came from an ad, I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. And why, you know, if our listeners maybe are doing more things that are in line with like what Nick's Industrial does, which is, you know, more repair and safety and things like that. And some bigger things are more B2B, big projects. Ads still work for them, but it's a totally different ballgame than when you're showing like this artistic thing that first off has a potential to go viral. So if you put like $100 behind it, it can pick up faster because someone sees that tank and they're like, oh, that's just pretty cool. Like, I mean, if you're like me, like on Instagram or Facebook, I'm in all these groups about like building cool patio thing, you know, like all these different things. And you see it all the time. So, but yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it's without social media, I mean, I honestly don't think I'd be doing, I don't want to say as well because I don't want to come off as conceited, but like I'm busy. I have plenty of work, and I do think most of that's from social media. I have a lot. It's funny. My father-in-law gives me crap all the time because I'll be like, all of a sudden I'll be on the ground, like taking photos, trying to get crazy angles. He's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm doing my influencer stuff. Just leave me alone. I gotta do this. But you know, with that,
I know how that is.
Yeah, it's, I mean, he's like,
you gotta lay on your stomach sometimes.
Yeah. And he always will go, so he's a plumber by trade, runs a very big company and brings in big dollars, does really well. He's like, marketing would not work for us. And it's like, actually, yes, it would. It's people, if you show your face and people can feel like they know you before you ever introduce yourself, you're setting yourself up for success. So it's, yes, I know in the contracting world, you kind of have your set subcontractor that you want to work with, but that could lead to more GCs wanting to work with you. So there is some value in that. So, but yeah, it's social media is incredible. And how it landed me, you know, these podcasts and the article was, I'm actually sponsored by ESOB Welders. So, got on their radar and flat out said, hey, you don't have anyone pushing your thermodynamics plasma cutters. I do all this stuff by hand, and so it's constantly in my videos. Is there a way we can work together? And they liked what I was making, and they liked the content, and just all around, I guess, what I was doing. And so I've been partnered with them since, let's see here. Yeah, last year, towards, I guess, probably around this time last year. So it's almost a year. And so that led me to FabTech, which I highly recommend people in, you know, not just the welding industry, because they also have powder coating, metal forming. They have, it's just such a huge event. Anyone within, I'll just say the fabrication, because that can be pretty broad, should go. And they paired me up with a couple people, and then next thing I know, I have a article. I didn't know I was going to be on the cover. I was supposed to be just a, you know, somewhere in the back, you know, hey, here's Jake, he does this. And he sent me a proof of the cover. He's like, what do you think? I was like, dude, you didn't say I was going to be on the cover. That's so yeah, it's super blessed. And yeah,
well,
it's a cool experience.
We're glad we caught you before you got too big and famous, and you're too big for our podcast. We're glad.
I was going to say, I should have Jake go tell people his little knowledge earlier where he's like, yeah, advertising works. If you get out there and people know, which that's really what we say a lot. Like people like to do business with people they like, right?
Yep.
But I should just have you go tell, I do a lot of videos, right? And I need to have you go tell all of our potential video clients it works.
Hey, there you go. You just send them the snippet. Like, hey, here, boom, here's your proven.
I don't even know this guy. He just said this.
Well, Casey, we forgot one thing.
I know, my dad joke.
Jake is a new dad, right?
Yes,
You're
I am.
a new dad, so you got to start getting your dad joke game going on, buddy.
I've been trying. Luckily, the first one, he's 2, and then we just had one in end of July, so he's actually taking a nap right now, but he's 6 months, I believe.
Awesome. Well, congratulations. Well, the 2-year-old will enjoy some good dad jokes before long. So Casey's going to enlighten you. Every episode.
I don't know if I've done this one yet, but here's a good dad joke. You guys ready? I have a whole list on my phone. This is my whole list here of dad jokes when they either I've only made up like one, but I'm pretty sure this one popped up on like Facebook or something. But so we've been having a lot of sicknesses going through. I think a lot of people have, but like through our household, Matthew knows we were out a whole bunch, but a lot of people around here have been sick. And here's the joke for being sick. Ready? I only seem to get sick on weekdays. I must have a weekend immune system.
That's pretty good.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
That's a good one.
That's a good one. Myself on the back. There we go.
Well, we're going to have to use that with some of our team members that, seem to get sick a lot. That's good.
100%. Yeah, the stomach bug came through here too. It's everywhere. So
yeah.
Yep.
That's good. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, Jake, it's been really fun chatting with you and getting to know you. And you do some really cool work. And heck, I may hit you up sometime about collaborating on something creative. We've got a shop full of folks that can just really crank out some metal fabrication, but we've kind of evolved our business to where doing creative projects like that doesn't really fit so well anymore. So I would love to maybe talk to you about some projects that I have in mind someday. So love chatting
Absolutely.
with you and hearing your story. And it's really awesome what you're doing. Keep up the great work and keep sharing everything on social media. We'll be sure to follow along. Where can listeners find you or learn more about you?
Yeah, so on Instagram and TikTok, it's just LeGrand Metalworks, all lowercase, all together. And then on Facebook, it's LMW LeGrand Metalworks. I do have a YouTube channel, so I've actually started doing some long form content because I do think my ways are a little unorthodox. I have a weird way of thinking of things. So that is also LeGrand Metalworks. The website is LM.
Yeah, I was going to spell LEGRAND.
That's correct. LeGrand Metalworks. Yep. But yeah, so I always welcome questions. I have, honestly, I'm thankful for them because I was that person at one point where I was like, hey, what plasma cutter do you use? What tip? What air pressure? What blah, 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 blah. It's hard. Like, yes, you can go Google things and you can find out, but sometimes you want the reassurance that someone else is doing it before you do it. So, I always welcome questions and always looking to help. So,
yeah, very cool. Well, you know how we sign off our podcast, and it's never been more relevant for a guest than it is for you. So, if we're not making sparks,
you're not making money.
Bam.
Awesome.
Well, great to be with you, Jake, and have a good weekend.
Right on. You guys as well.